Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm bringing you guys Week 14 wide receiver rankings for fantasy football in 2020. Inside this video, we are going to be touching upon my top 32 ranked wide receivers for week number 14 of the 2020 fantasy football season. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to my YouTube channel and have came across this video, and if at any point inside this video you end up enjoying it, end up having a great time, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 fantasy football championship. So real quick as well, I'd like to give you guys a quick word from my friends and my sponsor over at mybookie.ag. MyBookie.ag is the bookie of choice for Notorious Fantasy YouTube channel. It's the most wonderful time of the year that can't end soon enough. We all deserve a win. We all deserve a little extra money in our pockets, and we all deserve to have a little bit of fun. The only place you're guaranteed to get all three is at MyBookie.ag. They're the only sportsbook that doesn't care whether you've been naughty or nice this year. They've got gifts for everyone. Bet NFL, NBA, all your favorite college sports, and more on MyBookie.ag. Sign up today and receive the ultimate stocking stuffer, a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. It's simple. Sign up, enter promo code NOTORIOUSLY at checkout, and gain your discount matched halfway up to $1,000. Head over to mybookie.ag to make the most of the holidays this year and spurt into 2021 with cash in your pocket. The winner, bet with the best, bet with mybookie.ag. And we are back. Let's get into it. Week 14 wide receiver rankings. We begin with wide receivers 1 through 12. Coming in at number 1, we have Devante Adams at the Detroit Lions. Devante Adams has been on a hot streak as of recently, and I feel like him up against the Detroit Lions is going to be a soft serve ice cream matchup for Devante Adams. Devante Adams and Mr. Aaron Rodgers have been connecting for the last 7 zillion years of the NFL seasons. I mean, Devante Adams caught, I believe, his 200th ever NFL touchdown, also caught his 400th NFL touchdown last week, so Devante Adams and Aaron Rodgers should be fully connected here up against the Detroit Lions. At number 2, we have DK Metcalf versus the New York Football Jets. DK Metcalf going up against one of the worst defenses in the NFL is going to be a easy matchup and a great one for fantasy football. I believe DK Metcalf really sparks it up in this matchup up against the New York Football Jets. Number 3, we have Keenan Allen versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Keenan Allen and the Los Angeles Chargers, the whole fucking offense disappointed big time last week up against the New England Deflatriots. The Patriots, for some reason, put the clamps down on the Chargers, except for this week, they couldn't do that up against the Rams, and the Rams completely butt-fucked them. In this game up against the Atlanta Falcons, I believe that Keenan Allen will be able to play very well in this matchup. This should be a very easy one for one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. At number 4, we have A.J. Brown at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this matchup, in my opinion, is going to be heavily dominated by Mr. Derrick Henry for the Tennessee Titans, but we have seen in these kind of games, Jacksonville may be a bit scrappy and be able to score in this one, and A.J. Brown should be able to do well as well, even if Derrick Henry scores 7 zillion fantasy points. At number 5, we have Tyreke Hill at the Miami Dolphins. Now, he is coming into this week slightly banged up, but I do believe he ends up suiting up on Sunday. Up against the Miami Dolphins is not the perfect matchup for Tyreke Hill, especially if the Dolphins put Xavier Howard on him, who should be Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion, just has a zillion interceptions. I still think, though, even up against a not the worst defense in the Dolphins have like a top 5 defense in the NFL, so it's definitely not a cupcake matchup for Tyreke Hill, but Tyreke Hill just has those plays where he's going to make whoever is guarding him look stupid, and he's still able to produce as a top 5 wide receiver this week at Miami. At number 6, we have Allen Robinson, A-Rob, versus the Houston Texans. Allen Robinson, while I was definitely a bit scared to start Allen Robinson with Mitch Trubisky on his first game back when Trubisky was starting, I felt like, you know what, Trubisky won't play that well because he's not that good, and he actually struggled early on in the year, Allen Robinson, that is, with Mitch Trubisky, and then once Foles got in, Robinson started really putting the pedal to the metal, but with Mitch Trubisky, Allen Robinson has been able to produce recently with Trubisky, so I'm very confident in him this week up against the Houston Texans. Should be an easy matchup for him. At number 7, we have Calvin Ridley at the Los Angeles Chargers, and this is the case of a very easy matchup that is going to be high scoring, and without Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley should be very heavily involved in this matchup up against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. It should be pretty simple that Calvin Ridley could have a humongous game here and really help you win your Week 14 matchup this week. I think with Julio, it may even help Calvin Ridley because this offense really works so much better with Julio Jones in the lineup. It didn't really affect where I had Calvin Ridley. I have him at 7 with Julio or without. I think he's still a very high upside player up against the Los Angeles Chargers. Number 8, we have D-Hop at the New York Football Giants. Now, the New York Football Giants defense is no joke. genuinely, but Deandre Hopkins is fucking matchup proof. He's one of those elite wide receivers in the NFL who, regardless of who he's playing up against, even if Bradbury's on his ass, he is still going to give Bradbury a nice spanking of his behind. I still think DeAndre Hopkins should be able to perform in this matchup as wide receiver number 8. And number 9, we have Adam Thielen at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the biggest worry with Adam Thielen, who is 9, and number 11, Justin Jefferson, is the fact that this Minnesota offense on a weekly basis is kind of different when you think about it. Some weeks we see it very heavily ran by the rushing game of Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison, primarily being Dalvin Cook. Then other weeks we see this Minnesota offense look like Kirk Cousins is really taking a stranglehold of it and airing the ball out to Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. To win this game up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it is going to, in my opinion, be a combination of both. But again, you don't really know how the game script is going to go going into the game, because if they're down by 1 million, obviously they're going to throw it. But what if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fall flat on their feet and don't look amazing? Because the Bucs haven't looked great as of recently, and they're running the ball a lot. I'm not too sure how to feel about this, but I do feel confident in Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Regardless of if the game goes to running, they will both still be involved, and they have been great as of recently. So I'm going to go ahead and believe in them again as top 12 wide receivers. Adam Thielen at 9. We'll talk about Justin Jefferson at 11, but I pretty much talked about him already. At number 10, we have Michael Thomas at the Philadelphia Eagles. Michael Thomas has been screwed over, definitely, by the quarterback change from Drew Brees to Taysom Hill. Drew Brees is more of the guy who's likely to air it out. Taysom Hill is more likely to give it to himself and do it himself by rushing the ball. But with that said, Michael Thomas has still been good for fantasy football, and going up against the bum-ass Philadelphia Eagles, it'd be very hard to sit Michael Thomas. Again, at number 11, we have my friend Justin Jefferson at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Justin Jefferson has been great recently. There's legitimate arguments for him to be Offensive Rookie of the Year, and I would not dispute those remarks. He's been very good. Up against Tampa is definitely a tougher matchup, but I still think both him and Thielen get it done. At number 12, we have Tyler Lockett versus the New York Football Jets. Now, I want to talk about Tyler Lockett in depth. I talked about this on my live stream. If you guys check out the live streams on Thursday and Sunday before the games kick off, I go in depth in answering a lot of questions. Tyler Lockett was a guy that I really zeroed in on this live stream. Going back and finding it may be hard, so I'll just go over it again. Lockett has been miserable in the games he has not been good in. He has been on a kind of cold streak where he was balling out early in the season, dropping like a 40-point game, a 30-point game. He dropped a 50-point game, but recently he has not been doing that, and a lot of these games have been bad. Again, it's so hard to sit Tyler Lockett because he's on the Seattle Seahawks, one of the most potent offenses in the NFL. He's playing up against the Jets, one of the easiest defenses to score on in the NFL. Just ask Derek Carr, okay? It's very easy. So I still like Lockett as a top 12 option, but I do worry a lot about his volatility this season. Now into wide receivers 13 through 24, so if you guys have ended up enjoying this video so far, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. At number 13, we got Staphon Diggs versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this is definitely not a marquee matchup for Buffalo Bills wide receiver Staphon Diggs. This is certainly going to be a tough one for him. The Pittsburgh defense is pretty solid, but at the end of the day, I still believe Staphon Diggs is able to be heavily utilized inside of this Buffalo Bills offense to be worthy of a top 13 play on the week. At number 14, we have Deontay Johnson at the Buffalo Bills. Now, Deontay Johnson and Eric Ebron for the Pittsburgh Steelers have what I would describe as butterfingers, fumbleitis, can't hold on to the ballitis. These motherfuckers, the ball hits them right in the breadbasket, right in the hand. All you gotta do is clench the ball like you're clenching on some boobies and your name is Mitchell Trubisky. That's how easy it is, but for some reason, he always manages to drop it, but he still plays good in fantasy football. So just imagine, real quick, how good Deontay Johnson would be if he caught the ball every single time it hit him right in the fucking hands. He'd be amazing for fantasy football up against the Buffalo Bills. I feel this game is going to be high scoring. I still think Diggs is going to do well, and I really think Deontay Johnson is clearly, in my opinion, the number one option in Pittsburgh. At number 15, we have scary Terry F1 McLaurin at the San Francisco 49ers. Now, last week, Terry McLaurin bent you over the fucking table and didn't even have the courtesy to spit on his dick before shoving it right up your ass. You were very disappointed in that matchup. But this week, up against the San Francisco 49ers, I feel like he's going to be more involved. There's no way he scores like 3 fucking points. Again, at number 16, we have Chris Godwin versus the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Chris Godwin is a guy on a weekly basis that I really don't understand, because I don't understand this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Now, Mike Evans is coming into this game banged up. I still think he's going to do fine. That's why he's ranked at number 18. But that's obviously something to monitor up until Sunday's kickoff. I think Chris Godwin should be good in this game up against the Minnesota Vikings. The Bucs are going to have to throw the ball. Chris Godwin is going to be the main recipient of that, so I like him at 16. Number 17, we have Corey Davis at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Corey Davis had a shit that he had to take for months, and he dropped it all over the Browns' chest, even though they lost. Corey Davis had an amazing game. Now he gets the Jacksonville Jaguars. I expect a cool down spot here. He's not going to be as on fire as 35 fantasy points like last week, but I still think he's going to be able to put up a big number here up against the Jaguars with potential to be legitimately a top 5 option again at the wide receiver position this week at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 18, we have Mike Evans versus the Minnesota Vikings. I touched on that a couple of minutes ago when we were talking about Chris Godwin. Does Mike Evans play in this game? Personally, I believe so we should be fine up against the Minnesota Vikings. Definitely a guy you hope scores a touchdown, but on a weekly basis, normally he does that. At number 19, we have Robbie Anderson versus the Denver Broncos. Robbie Anderson seems to be the only survivor of this corona thing at the wide receiver position. Now, none of these guys died around him at the wide receiver position of Carolina, but what I'm saying is Curtis Samuel probably going to miss. DJ Moore probably going to miss. It seems like Robbie Anderson's in a big spot here to get the ball 7 million times because the other receivers around him are going to be 4th, 5th, 6th string wide receivers, and Robbie Anderson is clearly the upper echelon there, so I think he does great up against the Denver Broncos this week at 19. At number 20, we have my friend Chase Claypool at the Buffalo Bills. Now, when I say my friend, I'm not friends with any of these guys, but if any of these wide receivers would like to be friends, I would love to text you, Chase Claypool, if you're reading this. People call you Mapletron, but that's the dumbest fucking nickname ever. At number 20, Chase Claypool up against the Buffalo Bills. I like Claypool. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster, who we're going to touch upon later, has really fallen off this season. Juju has been ice cold, and he does have those good games. That's why it's kind of hard to sit him, plus the name value that comes with a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster. That's kind of why I've been on the train the whole season to move him off your roster if you had him and trade him away. But Chase Claypool has been pretty solid up against the Buffalo Bills. Again, I believe this is going to be a higher scoring matchup. The Buffalo Bills defense isn't amazing. I think Chase Claypool gets it done at number 20. At number 21, we have a guy that legitimately is going to finish in this spot or fucking 40. 50, 60. He could play absolutely atrocious. That is Amari Cooper at the Cincinnati Bengals. Amari Cooper is one of the hardest wide receivers to rank because this guy was on a heater early on in the season. This guy was snorting rails of coke. He was fired up like Jordan Bell fucking fur in the morning. That's how fired up this guy was. Amari Cooper at the Cincinnati Bengals. He was looking great with Dak. And then Dalton started simmering down. Then Gucci Danucci started playing, and then Gilbert Gottfried started playing quarterback, and he was dying, and then he's returning again. So I don't really know how to feel about this situation in Dallas. This game could really go either way. I don't see a whole lot of points being on the board, but for Andy Dalton's number 1 wide receiver, he does move up to spot 21 here at the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 22, we have Brandon cooking it up at the Chicago Bears. Now, I thought Brandon Cooks was going to be cooking like Gordon fucking Ramsay, Chef Ramsay in the kitchen, 5-star Michelin chef, but in reality, Brandon Cooks last week was cooking like me, making fucking mac and cheese at 3 in the morning when I'm absolutely hammered. That's how Brandon Cooks was cooking it up because he ended up getting hurt. Didn't play that well last week, and Kiki, do you love me? Cootie scored like 7 zillion points in comparison to Brandon Cooks. Now, I don't expect Brandon Cooks to be dead in the fucking gutter because he got hurt in that game, then came back. It seems like he's going to be good to go this week, and I do like him a lot up against the Chicago Bears at 22, but the risk is definitely there because Kiki was getting so much work last week. At 23, we have Devante Parker versus the Kansas City Chiefs. This is definitely not a marquee matchup for Devante Parker. The Kansas City Chiefs defense is no pushover. They're not like the most legit defense in the NFL, but they're definitely a complete defense, and Kansas City is in a spot here to overtake the number 1 spot in the AFC to get that bye, so they're really going to be looking to beat the ever-living shit out of the Dolphins, but I think the Dolphins and Devante Parker do play well in this game. The biggest worry about Parker is that him and Tua Tagovailoa just do not seem to be on the same page. Devante Parker can be one-on-one with the corner, and the corner could be kind of touching him a little bit. Devante Parker can catch the ball if it's a contested catch, but Tua doesn't trust him yet. He's looking for the guys that are wide open. That's the biggest worry with Devante Parker. I'm not saying he sucks this week. I think the Dolphins are going to have to put a lot of points on the board in order to win this game, and if that does happen, Devante Parker should be very good at wide receiver 23. At 24, we have Deebo Samuel versus the Washington football team. Now, if you had Deebo Samuel last week, you were probably crying until the 4th quarter because Deebo was nowhere to be found. It was like looking for fucking Waldo. Where's Deebo? The answer was just not catching the ball. But then the 4th quarter, the man scored, I think he might have scored a touchdown or something, but he went from like 3 PPR points to 15. He just did nothing, and then they finally realized, holy shit, we need to throw the ball to Deebo, and they started moving their chains doing that. So I think Deebo is much more involved up against the Washington football team this week. Now to wide receivers 25 through 32. At 25, we have the other San Francisco wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk versus the Washington football team. Ayuk was actually much more involved than Deebo going into the 3rd quarter. Then Deebo kind of took over. Both of of these guys are very used on this team. Brandon Ayuk has not disappointed yet this season as a rookie. Obviously, his rookie season hasn't been an elongated one because he has been hurt at times in spots and hasn't played the whole season. But overall, Brandon Ayuk has been pretty solid and is definitely a safe option at 25. At 26, we have Marvin Jones versus the Green Bay Packers. And to me, Marvin Jones can go either way on a weekly basis. We see him have these games like last week where he blows up and plays very well. We also see him kind of go into a turtle shell and not play very well other weeks. Up against the Green Bay Packers, this is not the easiest matchup, but Matthew Stafford typically is able to get it done to elevate Marvin Jones up to the status of being like a top 32-ish guy with an alright amount of upside. Obviously, it seems as though Kenny Bones, Kenny G, Kenny Galladay is going to end up missing again, which obviously sucks because I felt like he was really going to have a big season this year. 27, we have Cole Beasley versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. It seems like the mullet man, Cole Beasley, has been good every single week as of recently. Up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, though, this is where it gets a little bit scurry, and I'm kind of pivoting a little bit back on Cole Beasley. I've seen people ranking him much higher than I have, but with that said, I don't hate the Beasley-anata. I think Beasley is going to play well this week up against Pittsburgh, but his upside is most definitely limited going up against a tough Steelers team. At number 28, we have Boo Boo Smith-Schuster. That's what Antonio Brown calls him at the Buffalo Bills. Now, Juju hasn't been good at all really this season. He has shown those games early on the season up against the Giants, like week 1, he balled out. He has had those games. He's had like 2 or 3 games where he played really good. But otherwise, he's been outshadowed by the younger players on the team, and Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. And it's very hard to feed 3 fucking cooks in the kitchen. So I feel like I'd much rather pivot onto Johnson and Claypool. So Juju falls his way back here at 28. At 29, we have Wiki DJ Chark versus the Tennessee Titans. Now, DJ Chark has gone into the untrustworthy category of fantasy football. The upside is here up against Tennessee. This is going to be a back-and-forth affair, you would hope. If the Jags are able to start jagging off all over the Tennessee Titans, DJ Chark will be involved. But man, Chark has not been great as of recently. That's why he's falling all the way back here at 29. At number 30, we have Jarvis Juice Landry versus the Baltimore Ravens. The Jarvis Landry and the Browns just literally beat the pulp out of the Tennessee Titans last week. This was a murder like O.J. Simpson style. This was brutal. Jarvis Landry up against the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think it's going to be as brutal. This is going to be a close game. This is a must-win game for both teams in this division in the AFC North. I think Jarvis does fine, but I think there's much more of a rush-heavy attack from Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in Cleveland to where Jarvis Landry isn't as worth it in fantasy football. At 31, we have T.Y. Hilton at the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Hilton is a player that I don't dislike, but I have disliked this season. Going into the season, I thought he'd be shit, and he was. He's been good the last 2 games, and I'll ride him here for the playoff hopes up against the Las Vegas Raiders. This should be a game that's high scoring. This should be a game that T.Y. Hilton is able to be involved in, so I like him here at 31. And closing in the top 32, we got Tyler, Boyd, up against the Dallas Cowboys. Boyd did not play very good up against the Miami Dolphins. I understand that his stat line did show that he did get kicked off, as well as Xavier Howard got ejected. Get the fuck out of here in this game. Tyler Boyd should be a good start here up against Dallas. Not a great start. Not a great start at all, because I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. But there's a lot worse wide receivers out there than Tyler Boyd up against the Dallas Cowboys. Thank you guys all so much for watching this video. If you did not enjoy, please make sure that you guys do hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you guys check out mybookie.ag, code notoriously at checkout. I love you all. Have a great rest of your guys' day. I hope you guys enjoyed this wide receiver video. It was a little bit quicker than the other wide receiver rankings videos I've made in the past because I felt really zeroed in on this video and didn't feel like we need to go super deep on those early guys because the matchups were just so obvious. I didn't feel like we needed to harp on those guys super early on in the video, so I did hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. I do love you all. Have a great rest of your guys' day. I love you. As always, good boy!